Hello and welcome back to Tony Dock Station. First off, I want to apologise for the long period of time between my last video and this one. I've literally had so much going on that I just literally haven't had a chance to get up into the loft and get cracking to finish the switchboard panel and wiring, etc. So one thing you might notice is that this camera's dead still, because I've made a little investment in a sort of camera mount, so hopefully you'll have less shaky videos, which I know was a problem for some people. And I've also made a few other little purchases, one of which you can probably see there, which is a Class 50 by Hornby. Sorry, Class 50 by Hornby. One of these, which I grabbed. I bought this pre-weathered off of one of the Facebook groups, and it's unused. Obviously it wasn't factory weathered, it came weathered by the owner, but it's brand new and unused. The other thing that I've recently purchased, which a lot of people are jumping on, which is great, is the Network YouTube route map. As you can see, I haven't even opened this yet, but I've got the timetable in there, and here I am here. This map has changed considerably, and I think the new one's going to print soon, so I'll probably have to grab one of those as well. But I'm one of the original founding stations on this map, which is why I grabbed this one as the first one. So that as well. So go and check out the Facebook group for details on that. And I think you can still be added, but I think the deadline has now passed to be added for the most recent print. I've also been purchasing a few other little bits and bobs, which I'm going to go through at a later date, because I just haven't even got them out of the box, or I haven't set them up. And one of the other things, which I'm not sure if I can remember if I mentioned, is I've got a 108 Bachmann DMU, which I grabbed at a silly price as well. Nice little DMU. So my Network Southeast fleet is getting there. I think I've also got another carriage, and eventually I want to swap these two out, because now I've got 3 different colours between this carriage, and this loco itself. So, and then if you then take into account this colour as well, and then the colours of my DMU and 423. So that's that. So I suppose now I'll fill you in a bit more on the control panel. As you can see, there's a few wires coming out there. I'm gonna take you back in time to getting the wiring done, so I won't show you the back of the box, because obviously it will confuse you from where I left off the last video. Welcome back to Tony Dock Station. So what I've done here, moving on from last video, is I put in the common live, the constant live, which goes from each switch centre pin, as I mentioned before. Just goes around all the switches across the centre pins, and then that will come out, so that, and then that will go to the capacitor discharge unit. And then what I've done is I've just grabbed my old multimeter here, and I put one. In fact, let me see if I can do it and show you. It's going to be difficult one-handed. Put one pin on there, and then the other one here. Now obviously these switches aren't connected by anything other than this wire, and if we listen, that's how I know that the wire is connected across all the terminals with good conduction. So then what I've done there as well is I've just got a bit of the old flux, which is essential for soldering, trust me, especially when you're doing fiddly stuff like this. It was so much easier. The other terminals, just brush a bit of flux on, then tin these, because then all you got to do is, and this is what I did with this wire as well, what I did was just take a solid length, then grabbed a pair of cable splicers, I can't remember what they're called, trimmers, cable cutters, whatever, and then just split it mid-cable, fluxed the metal, and solder that onto the pin. Soldering isn't perfect, but as you heard, I've got a good connection. So that wire then is the exact length that I need it, and then just trimmed it off at the end. And then that's one less fiddly wire to worry about. So yeah, then I went round and just tinned all the rest of the pins on everything else. So flux, quick dab of the soldering iron, quickly run some solder on, and then just let it run down and coat the joints. And then what I'll do now is just run wires from each switch to the chop blocks, and then this sister board will be ready and wired to connect in to everything else. So this board may be done, but I've still got that little one to do, which won't take too long. And then I've obviously got to do all the cabling under the battery biscuit base. So wish me luck. Okay, so this is what I'm doing with the other terminals of the switch. So as you can see, you've got the left and right throw of those two switches, and then they go into these terminal blocks, and then coming out, oh, where's my finger there? Coming out of those, so you've got left, right, coming out, they will then go to the seat point motors via the Cat 5 cable. So that's those, and then the rest of them to do, lucky me. And then we will crack on with everything else. So here we go. So after much soldering, I've finished connecting up all the switches. So as I mentioned before, we've obviously got the common live, which goes into the centre pin of that switch, then goes around all the other switches. And then for the either side terminals of those switches, they all come down into these chop blocks. So this part is now all wired and finished. And I'm very grateful for that. So all I've got to do now is obviously run the wires from the points underneath, and they will come in to here, and then just screw them into these terminals. And then what some people might be thinking as well is, for example, if I spin this round, careful not to hit the right there. So say for example, say there's a point like this where I want to turn the points. People think, well, why don't you have it on one switch? Which is what I am going to do, but I wanted the option to have both switches in there, so if I ever want to, I've got the option to control them individually. And definitely, for example, say this point here down into this point here, I might want this to still be straight ahead, but this point to be bearing right, so I definitely want those to be controlled individually. So I want the option, but then what I'm going to do is, for the ones that, like the first one I showed you, is wherever those points are, I will just loop a wire between terminals 1 and 1 and 2 and 2 of those, so that when that point is fired, it will come down and link to the other point as well and fire them both together. And obviously going through the capacitor discharge unit, that's more than capable to do that. So then either, say for example at this point here, if I fired that one, then that one will fire as well at the same time, and again I've got the option to use that switch to fire them both at the same time, so it doesn't matter which one I go for. But then if I do want to then go back to controlling them individually, all I do is just pull out the link wire that I would have put in. I haven't put them in yet, but I will do when it comes to sort of wiring it all up. So next thing to do is do that one, which I won't bother showing you guys because obviously you've seen it all in this one and it's just going to be much of the same. And then running the wires underneath the baseboards, which is where I will bring you guys in next. Here's the smaller one finished. Obviously I said I wasn't going to show you me building it because it's much of the same, but just in case any of you were getting a bit horrified about spaghetti junction. The fewer switches and LEDs you have, it's actually not that bad. So as you can see, I've got my positive from the CDU in here into the centre pin of the switch, my DCC positive negative for the LEDs in there, and then the left and right throws of the switches into their respective terminal box. So it's literally the same as spaghetti junction, just need to bring the frogs in and the point motors, and then that one is done. So that is the smaller board, not spaghetti junction. So what I've done now is I've run another just black bus wire, because I have quite a bit of spare, and I'm connecting up all the negative AC feeds from these seeps to this bus wire. So it's a separate bus wire, it's not DCC, it's going to be an AC negative, and this is going to go back to the capacitor discharge unit. So all of the negatives on the seeps are going to be connected to this, and then it will terminate at the capacitor discharge unit. Okay, so I've been a bit busy with this, and I've sort of jumped ahead quite a bit, but I'm just going to sort of run through where I'm up to. So as you can see, I've got 2 points there, this one and this one. They're currently wired up. So if I just put the camera there and flick this point, so as you can see, I've got them joined up, and the wiring for that, like I said, is just send a loop over to that and over to that, and then if I want to put them individually again, I just have to take those 2 wires out there. And as you can see, I've also got the cable coming into here. So let me run through what I've done. Okay, so under here you'll see I've got, just trying to focus on it there, those 2 crimps there. They are connected to the home and throw of the seep, and I've got 2 wires coming out of it there, and that is basically part of this network cable. All I've done is, as you can probably see over there, is split it to tap into the network cable. The beauty of it is it's 8 strands which are all paired in colours, so it makes it very easy for wiring. So this one run has done these 4 points. Let's focus. So I've got 4 points here, which means 1 run of cable, 8 cables, 2 wires each, 8 equals 8, and that runs back to the control panel. So that just runs under to keep it nice and neat, and as you can see coming down there, and I've just started wiring in, I've just done those 2 points now. And now there's also a little white wire there, that's going to be for the frogs. So you might have saw a minute ago, I've got this little white cable clipped to the frog cable. That's going to be my LED feed, and then the second one is clipped on in there. Can't really see it very well, but there is a second one. That's then run all the way back, and that will clip into the LEDs, which I'm about to do now. So I'll show you that. Okay, so as you can see, all the LEDs are lit up, apart from a couple, which are just these 2 here and these 2 here. And that's because of the way that these work, is because there's no frog going to them, they've all lit up. But these particular 2 switches here, as I say, I've got them joined up, and you will see if I flick the switch to this way, the route is now indicated with the LEDs to go straight ahead, and if I use this switch to flick it back, the LEDs show that they're now there. So that is literally just, as I said, no other wiring than just running the 2 points in and the 2 frogs into there. So, you know, spaghetti junction it will look pretty good. These do look quite bright, and they have already got a 1k resistor behind them. But bearing in mind that all the LEDs are currently lit up, I'm thinking once I've got half of them gone, once the frogs are all wired up, it will dim down a bit. But other than that, I'm quite happy with that. And as I say, the points are joined up so they can both operate. These here, and I've rotated the switches so that if I want to go straight ahead, I pull the switch left. And if I want to bear right on this junction, I push the right there. And on this one, obviously, if I want to go straight ahead, I want to push it that way. And if I want to bear right on that one as well, I pull it in that direction, and that changes. So I'm going to finish wiring up the rest of them, and it literally is, as I said, just frogs into the frogs on there, onto the respective numbers. So obviously the right LED is lighting that, and then motors into the right switches, and then hey presto, that is that. But I'm really pleased with those. Running the wires for the LEDs. Again, I knew this looks messy. It will be tidied up, but I've accepted that this is spaghetti junction now. Trying to cram a lot into a small space, it's never going to be as tidy as I wanted it to be. So if I just power up, I'll show you the LEDs at the moment. I'll say not all the motors are wired up, and none of these LEDs are wired up. But as you can see, each LED, or point rather, has only one LED on, depending on where it's routed. And I'm just in the process of now running the wires to the motors. So for this three-way point, obviously if I want it to go straight ahead, I need both these LEDs to be lit. And then obviously if I want it to bear that way, I need the straight ahead on this one and that one lit. So for example, like that. So now that is bearing right, and then straight ahead, and this motor isn't wired in, but it would be the same for that. So this one to bear left, and this one straight ahead to enable that to happen. This one here, I think the LEDs need wiring in as well for that route, and all these are done. I think that one's wired in. Yeah, that one's wired in as well. So you can see how the system works now. So what I'm doing, I'll just go under the old baseboard, find a point. This one will do, for example, because it's not wired in. So these two wires here are for the power to throw the motor. And then as you can see, this frog wire here, which is going to be for the LED, has got a wire coming off. Because this is close, I just used red. And then that comes through, comes down, and in to the relevant LED to throw that one. So that one is this one here, which is why we've got that there, but obviously the switch won't throw because those aren't wired in. So that's the wiring, and then I will connect the two there. They'll be run through, come down to the board and go into the relevant motor section, the larger chop blocks, and that is as simple as that. So getting the power from the LEDs is just tapping into the frog and then running power again to the motor throws there. Again, what I've been doing with the motors is using the network cable. So as you can see, I've got a network cable going up there, and because that's 8 core, that gives me 4 motors basically. So I've got some here to still wire in, which I've connected up, and then that will go through there. And like I've mentioned before about some of them switches controlling 2 motors. So for example, you might think this one and this one need to be run together, because if it's bearing right down here, so bearing right, you want that one to be bared right as well, but I won't, because I want separate control, because if I've got a loco coming in here and I want it to go down here but keep this straight ahead or bear that right, and have separate control of the 2 points. So I'm going to keep them all individual for now. As I say, these ones have been paired up by the method I explained before, but I'm going to keep the rest of these all individual. Some of these will be probably paired up when I get round to that side, but most of this section here will be kept on individual switches, just for more routing options. So yeah, I'm going to crack on wiring with this now, and then I will come back at the end and show you it all finished, because I think I've explained everything, but we shall see. Okay, and so here is the finished control panel with motors wired and LEDs wired. So as you can see, the LEDs do look a bit bright, but to my eye in here they're actually quite amenable, so I'm not that bothered about those, plus I'm going to have the lights on in here whenever I'm up here anyway. So but yes, so the roots will work. So if it's bringing me closer, the roots will work, and obviously as you can see, I've wired those that switch and this switch up together. I've kept the 3-way point and these separate, just because you know, I might have different route options, and I didn't want to get complicated with wiring up the 3-way frog to these and things like that. So that's all working, all these work lovely as well. As you can see, that is there, there's this point here, and obviously with the capacitor discharge unit in there, it's nice quick silent throws. So I've just mounted it on with some corner braces, which I mentioned before, and then I took a screw down into the board and then again from behind the board into the MDF, so it's held on there quite well. I'm really giving it a good. And then underneath, the spaghetti junction has been tidied up as best as it can be. So obviously that's my loom in, and there's enough slack on it so that the board can come off for servicing should it need it. But yes, it is a bit messy under here, which I'm going to go through and tidy up the rest of the wires, but it is all on and working. So I expect this video is going to be quite long, so I'm going to end it here. So next video I will be going through a few bits I bought, and then hopefully starting on some scenery. In the meantime, I'm going to wire up that small one onto there. That's literally going to take me half a day, I reckon, maybe a day tops. But this was the main beast to get on, and that is all working. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.